3 days before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, I found my younger sister tangled in bed with my fiancé, wearing the lingerie I bought for our honeymoon and smiling like she'd won. That moment didn't just break me, it rewrote my life. And what happened next changed everything for our entire family. My name's Rachel, and for 29 years I lived in the shadow of my sister Brittany. She was always the golden girl, blonde, bright, endlessly magnetic. Growing up in Charleston, I watched her take my clothes, my friends, my first kiss, and eventually, my trust. When I was 16, she convinced my prom date, Danny Alvarez, to take her instead, by telling him I was secretly crushing on someone else. At 22, she moved into the apartment I shared with my college boyfriend while I was studying abroad in Prague. Said she was helping him through a depressive spiral. Turns out, they were sleeping together. My parents defended her every time. "She doesn't mean to hurt you," Mom would murmur while patting my shoulder, as if my pain was just a phase. "Brit just doesn't think things through." But Brittany always thought things through. I found her diary when I was 15, pages and pages of strategies, written like battle plans. How she'd win over my friends. How she'd flirt with my crushes. How she'd make everything mine, hers. I should have seen it coming with Logan. We met 4 years ago at a wine bar outside Nashville where I was waitressing to cover nursing school. He was a sous chef with big dreams and a battered Corolla that broke down more than it ran. But he made me laugh. I helped him pitch his first restaurant concept. I believed in him when no one else did, including his own parents, who told him culinary school was a waste. When banks refused to give him a loan, I gave him every cent I'd saved from double shifts and overtime. $26,000. I thought we were building something together. I thought he was different. Logan had seen Brittany's manipulations firsthand. She flirted with my ex at Thanksgiving, accidentally, spilled wine on my engagement photos, and even made a snide comment about my wedding dress being a little boxy. Maybe something sexier would make Logan more excited. He laughed it off at the time, squeezed my hand under the table at dinner, told me she was exhausting. At our rehearsal dinner, a candlelit celebration at the very bistro where Logan and I had our first real date, my dad gave a teary speech about watching his daughter fall in love with a man who finally saw her worth. Brittany, dressed in a sapphire blue bridesmaid dress I paid $450 for, raised her glass and toasted us like she was auditioning for a Hallmark movie. She leaned across the table all night, laughing too loudly at Logan's jokes, touching his arm like it was habit. "She's just dramatic," Logan whispered, when I gave him a look. "It's her way of being excited." I almost believed it. 2 nights before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. Pre-wedding nerves, I told myself. I decided to surprise Logan with coffee, our last morning apart before marriage. I stopped at our favorite 24-hour diner, grabbed his usual dark roast and an everything bagel, and let myself into the apartment above the flower shop I helped him lease. My key turned like it always had. But everything was wrong. There was music playing low. Laughter. And there, in our bed, was Brittany, wearing the white silk lingerie I'd saved 3 paychecks for. The lace now twisted around her legs. Champagne flutes on the nightstand. My engagement ring beside takeout from the same Italian place we celebrated our 6-month anniversary at. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just froze. Brittany saw me first. Her expression wasn't one of guilt, it was victory. "I was going to tell you," she said, stretching like a cat. Logan realized he chose the wrong sister. Logan scrambled, half-dressed, tripping over words. "Rachel, I didn't mean for this just happened. I still love you, I swear." But she cut him off. "Stop lying, Logan. Tell her about Vegas. About Christmas. About the loan. Or should I?" My legs nearly gave out. Vegas. March. That's when Logan said he was attending a food conference. Christmas, when Brittany stayed in the guest room next to ours. And last week, when Logan came home late claiming work stress but smelled like her perfume. "Tell her about the restaurant," she added. How we're using her money to open it in Portland. Together. Portland. He'd mentioned it once. Said a chef friend offered him a job. I told him it might be good for us to start fresh. Turns out, he and Brittany had already found an apartment. With a garden view. And they planned to run, right after my wedding. With my $26,000. I turned and left without a word. He called my name from the window as I drove away. She yelled at him to let me go. 6 hours later, I was still sitting on Sunset Cliff, staring at the ocean, where Logan proposed 13 months earlier. That night, he said I made him better at everything. I believed him. But now I knew better. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to forgive Brittany. I was going to give her a wedding gift she'd never forget. I didn't cry when I got home. I didn't even scream. I poured myself a glass of water and calmly told my parents. The wedding is still happening. Just not the way anyone expects. Mom blinked at me, still wiping tears from a conversation with the florist about cancellation fees. My dad looked up from arguing with the caterer, his face pale and stunned. Rachel, sweetheart, my mom said. Logan called. He says it's just cold feet. These things happen before a big commitment. Even now. Even after everything. They were still defending Brittany. There was a long silence while I placed my purse on the counter. I'm not in shock, I told them. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in years. And I was. Cold clarity. The kind that doesn't blink. I went to my old room, locked the door, and called my cousin Nate. Nate's a cybersecurity specialist who works for a firm in San Diego that handles corporate espionage and digital forensics. 3 years ago, I helped him through a brutal divorce. His ex tried to take his house, his dog, and even his 401k. I spent 3 months organizing evidence, helping him uncover hidden assets, and eventually connecting him with a lawyer who destroyed her in court. He told me afterward, "You ever need anything, I've got you." I hit dial. "What's up, Rage?" he said, using my childhood nickname. "I need you to help me destroy 2 people," I replied calmly. "And it has to be legal." The tone of his voice changed instantly. "Tell me everything." I did. Every detail. The betrayal, the stolen money, the plan to open a restaurant in Portland with my savings. The photographer Brittany hired, the hotel reservations, the fake smiles and double lives. Nate listened without a single interruption. When I finished, he let out a sharp whistle. "Wow. They didn't just betray you, they planned a production. That's not stupidity. That's strategy." "Exactly," I said. "So I'm giving them the finale they never expected." "Okay. Do you want exposure, confession, or implosion?" I grinned. "Yes." He laughed. "I'll take care of the digital footprint. I can have micro cameras in Logan's place by tonight. I'll clone his phone if you can get me physical access for 30 seconds. And I'll get the emails, text threads, GPS, cloud backups. I'll even map the timeline." "Nate," I said, my voice steady. "Make it beautiful." Next, I called Chelsea Torres, the wedding photographer Brittany insisted we use. A so-called storytelling specialist, who prides herself on catching unscripted moments. I'd barely met her, but her website was full of teary-eyed brides and dramatic kisses. The kind of stuff you'd see in a perfume commercial. "Chelsea, this is Rachel Monroe. You're shooting my wedding tomorrow," she chirped happily. "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited! Brittany told me you're really into raw, authentic moments." "Actually," I said slowly, "I need you to shoot something a little different. Unconventional. Possibly uncomfortable." She paused. "I specialize in that. Honest emotion is kind of my thing. Should I bring extra memory cards?" "Bring everything." "And Chelsea?" "Yeah? There might be video elements involved. Some parts might be live." "Oh," she said, like I just handed her the plot of a viral documentary. "Where will this be going? Instagram stories? TikTok? Something like that. But you can't say a word." The surprise depends on total silence. Consider me mute, she replied. Brittany said you're more creative than people give you credit for. I'm starting to see it. Perfect. After I hung up, I stared at my phone. My sister had been planning my public humiliation for months. She wanted to break me down at the altar and have her little photography squad immortalize it for social media. She probably envisioned a viral video of me weeping in my wedding dress while she pretended to comfort Logan. No. Not this time. I made one more call. The hardest one. Mrs. Patterson? I said when Logan's mother picked up. Her name's Denise, and she's what you'd get if you crossed Judge Judy with a Southern Baptist church matriarch. She never liked Brittany. Once, at our engagement party, she watched Brittany, accidentally, brush her hand along Logan's married brother's back 6 times during dinner. Afterwards, she pulled me aside and said, "That girl's like a raccoon with lip gloss. You watch your ring, honey." I told her everything. No filters. No euphemisms. There was silence on the line for a long time. Then I heard the sharp inhale of someone trying not to cuss. "Those sinful little goblins," she muttered. "After all you've done for that boy. You lifted him up after his daddy called him a disgrace. And this is how he thanks you?" "I have a plan," I said. "But I need your help." "What do you need, sweetheart?" "I need to make sure Logan shows up. If he backs out, it won't work." "Oh, he'll be there," she said. "I'll make damn sure of it. That boy owes you a public reckoning, and I'll drag him down the aisle myself if I have to." I smiled. "Thank you, Denise." The morning of the wedding, I woke up with calm in my bones. I hadn't felt that in months. My phone was already buzzing, texts from vendors, bridesmaids, distant cousins flying in from Arizona. At 6:15 a.m., Brittany texted me. "Logan told me everything. I'm so sorry. Can we talk before the ceremony? I just want to explain." I stared at the message for a full minute. Even now. Even after all this. She thought I was going to cancel the wedding, disappear quietly, and let her and Logan fly off into their Portland fantasy with my money and no consequences. I replied, "Of course. See you at the church. We'll have plenty of time to talk." She had no idea what was waiting for her. By 3 a.m., Nate had texted me. "Package delivered. You're going to love the bonus footage." Bonus footage. That meant they'd been even sloppier than I expected. By 8 a.m., I was stepping into my gown, still the one I had picked out. A vintage-style A-line with hand-stitched pearls, worn first by my grandmother in 1955. My makeup artist noticed my calm. "You're awfully zen for someone whose life is about to change," she said. I smiled. Exactly where I need to be. At 10 a.m., I arrived at St. Matthew's Cathedral. The guests were already filing in. 200 people, dressed to the nines, ready to witness my fairy tale ending. And oh, they would. Just not the one they expected. I found Brittany in the bridal suite, the same one I had dreamed about getting ready in for months. She was pacing like a caged fox in the sapphire bridesmaid dress I'd bought her, the one that cost me nearly $500 and matched the centerpieces she'd helped pick out. She looked up the second I stepped in and nearly leapt at me. "Rachel. Please, can we talk before this starts? Logan told me you know everything. I never meant for it to happen like this." I held up a hand, interrupting her carefully rehearsed sob story. "No explanation needed," I said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face like I used to when we were little. "You want Logan? You can have him." Her eyes widened like I just handed her a winning lottery ticket. "Wait, really?" she said, her voice catching. "You're my sister," I said with a serene smile. "If you think he's your soulmate, who am I to stand in the way of true love?" She blinked, then laughed nervously, like she didn't trust this to be real. I was worried you'd try to ruin everything." "Me? Make a scene?" I said lightly. "When have I ever made a scene?" She nodded, flustered and triumphant all at once. "Never. You've always been so calm." That's why Logan and I knew you'd understand eventually. Her voice was syrupy sweet, like she was already imagining herself posting an Instagram caption that started with, "Sometimes love finds you in unexpected places. There's just one small change," I added, casually opening the makeup bag I'd brought and handing her a fresh lipstick. "What kind of change?" she asked, dabbing it on. "You're walking down the aisle today, not me." She froze. "I've arranged everything," I said, pulling a pearl pin from my clutch and adjusting her hair like a doting maid of honor. "The flowers, the pastor, the vows, ready and waiting for you and Logan." "What? Rachel, we can't." "Why not?" I tilted my head, still smiling. "You two love each other, right? Everyone's already here. And I figured since you've already taken my fiancé, my honeymoon suite, and my money, why not take the ceremony too?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Her eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal trying to find the nearest exit. "But what will you tell everyone?" she whispered. I leaned in so close I could see the flecks of panic in her mascara-caked lashes. "The truth," I said. "That my sister and my fiancé fell in love. That I decided to step aside. That everyone should witness the beginning of your beautiful life together." She knew she was screwed. If she backed out, she'd look like the home-wrecking coward she was. If she went through with it, she'd be locking herself into a marriage built on theft and betrayal, in front of 200 witnesses. Either way, she'd lose. "Where's Logan?" she choked. "Man's sweet. He's so excited to marry you, Britt. Couldn't stop talking about how you're everything he ever wanted in a woman." That was a lie, of course. Logan had called me 17 times that morning before I finally blocked him. I forwarded all his desperate texts to Brittany instead, along with one line. "Your groom seems nervous. Maybe you should go comfort him." 20 minutes later, Brittany stood at the back of St. Matthew's Cathedral in a hastily altered wedding dress borrowed from our cousin Jane. Jane had brought it for photos. She didn't know it would be part of an ambush. The organ began to play "Here Comes the Bride" as 200 guests turned to see her walking down the aisle, arm in arm with my father, who looked dazed but resigned. His face was frozen in polite confusion, probably still trying to figure out what the hell was happening. Denise, Logan's mother, sat beside me in the front pew, stone-faced and tight-lipped. At the altar, Logan stood looking like a man awaiting execution. He kept glancing toward the pews, his eyes begging me to stop this madness. I didn't blink. Pastor Reynolds cleared his throat and addressed the room. "Due to unexpected circumstances," he said, careful to stick to the script I had emailed him, "we will be celebrating the union of Logan Patterson and Brittany Monroe today instead of Rachel Monroe and Logan Patterson." A murmur rolled through the crowd like thunder through a canyon. Chelsea, the photographer, moved through the pews with clinical precision, snapping shot after shot. Her camera captured every twitch of Logan's jaw, every flicker of regret on Brittany's face. When the pastor asked, "Logan, do you take Brittany to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Logan looked at me one last time. I gave him a small nod, serene, merciless. "I do," he croaked. "And do you, Brittany, take Logan to be your lawfully wedded husband?" There was a pause. The longest 3 seconds of my life. Then she lifted her chin and said it. "I do." The kiss that followed looked more like a forced stare than a wedding moment. Chelsea caught it all, perfectly timed. The reception was held at the Monarch Garden Ballroom, as planned. All 200 guests filtered in, equal parts curious and bewildered. I mingled like the world's most gracious ex-bride, accepting compliments and telling everyone that love had simply changed course. Logan and Brittany sat at the head table, surrounded by flowers I'd picked and food I'd paid for. They looked like winners of a contest neither of them wanted. During dinner, I stood, tapped my champagne glass with a silver fork, and said, "Before we cut the cake, I have a special surprise for the happy couple." The room fell silent. They didn't know it yet, but the first course of revenge had been served. The projector screen descended. The same one we were supposed to use for a romantic slideshow. Nate sat in the back, ready to hit play. and what played next would end everything. The screen lowered like a curtain before a show, but what I was about to premiere wasn't love. It was betrayal in 1080p. As most of you know, I began, standing under a glittering chandelier. Logan and Brittany's love story has been a journey, and I thought it would be meaningful to show you all how that journey unfolded. There was polite laughter, a few raised brows. Logan sat up straighter, his face twitching with uncertainty. Brittany was already frozen, one hand clutched tight around her champagne flute like it might be a weapon or a shield. I nodded to Nate in the back. He clicked play. And then it began. The first scene opened with Logan's apartment, clear, steady footage from a corner angle. My cousin had installed micro-cameras weeks ago. On screen, Brittany lay across Logan's bed, barefoot and smug, sipping wine. "Rachel's always been so trusting," she said, smiling into the glass. "She has no idea we've been planning this since March." The room fell into shocked silence. You could hear cutlery clink against plates and stop midair. Aunt Jo gasped audibly. One of Logan's groomsmen muttered, "Holy shit." The footage jumped forward. Now Logan was in the frame, shirtless and laughing. "Tell me again about the money," he said, running a hand down her back. 26,000, she said like she was reading a fun fact. "She's been squirreling it away for years. It'll be enough for the Portland place. Once we're married and out of town, it's ours." Gasps echoed across the hall. A few guests stood up. One woman dropped her wine glass, and it shattered. Chelsea, the photographer, kept snapping pictures. The next scene was Logan in his kitchen, reading from what looked like cue cards. "Rachel, I just think we've grown apart," he said in a practiced tone. "It's not about anyone else. I still care about you." Brittany's voice, off-screen, directed him. "No, say it more gently. Make her think it's her idea to call it off." Cut to Brittany trying on wedding dresses in his apartment. My wedding dresses. Dresses she stole from my Pinterest board and secret bridal folder. Logan was behind the camera. Then came texts, screenshots superimposed on the video like a PowerPoint. Texts where they joked about me, planned the day after escape, budgeted my savings, even laughed about how I'd probably be crying into the cake while they flew to Oregon. Then the final blow, a call Brittany made to someone 2 days before the wedding. "Rachel's pathetic," she said, voice clear as day. "She'll probably beg Logan to come back. But we'll be long gone. She's too spineless to ever fight back." The room was absolutely still. Then I stepped forward and took the mic again. "Surprise," I said, keeping my voice light. "I thought everyone deserved to know what kind of love story we were celebrating." The guests didn't know whether to clap or scream. Some did both. Logan's mother stood up and walked out without a word. Logan's best man looked like he was about to hurl. Brittany was sheet white, hands shaking. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. And she was. Because the Rachel who used to cry in the closet when Brittany stole her boyfriends? She didn't exist anymore. I raised my glass again. "But that's not all," I said sweetly. "There's one more wedding gift." At that moment, Nate hit send on the mass message. Every phone in the room buzzed at once. "I've sent everyone a link," I said. "It leads to a private site with the full video, texts, and timeline of events. For transparency. And for anyone who missed a juicy detail." Phones lit up like Christmas trees. People scrolled, gasped, whispered. Brittany shot to her feet. "This is illegal!" she shrieked. "This is revenge porn." "Actually," Nate stepped forward, holding up a folder like an attorney. "Everything was recorded in a location where you had no reasonable expectation of privacy. Logan signed off on surveillance when he moved in, it's in the lease. And the church wedding was a public event. Filming was consented to by all parties." He flipped a document. "I also have legal opinions from 2 different attorneys. All footage is admissible in court." Logan stood now too. "We're leaving." "Perfect," I chirped. "Your honeymoon suite at the Majestic is prepaid. Penthouse upgrade, hot tub, champagne, Enjoy. They stormed off, but not before Brittany whipped around, pointing at Logan like a villain in the final act. "This is all your fault," she screamed. "You said she was too stupid to catch us. You said she'd never fight back." "Oh yeah?" Logan barked. "You're the one who said manipulating her would be easy." Their argument continued all the way through the ballroom's side exit, out past the kitchen and into the alley behind the venue. Guests stared. Phones filmed. That night, their marriage started with humiliation, and it was all on camera. The best part? We weren't done yet. By the time Logan and Brittany disappeared through the kitchen doors, him shouting, her crying, I'd already handed off the mic and returned to my seat. I didn't need to see the rest of their meltdown in person. I'd see it replayed online plenty. Within hours, the video had gone viral. Nate had set it up perfectly. The site couldn't be taken down, mirrored on half a dozen servers, and backed up across social media platforms under the hashtag #OurSisterlyLove. It was being shared faster than either of them could hit delete. Even during cleanup, people were still talking. Some guests were filming interviews in the parking lot, recapping the most insane wedding they'd ever attended. Logan's old high school coach asked me to speak at a conference on personal integrity. Brittany's sorority sisters were already planning a group unfollow. Aunt Maggie, with her usual brutal honesty, patted my hand and whispered, I always knew she was a snake. But this was boa constrictor behavior. As guests slowly filed out, some still reeling, some applauding, I stayed behind and helped Chelsea pack up her gear. She hugged me tight. You turned your worst day into a documentary, she said, wiping a tear. Honestly? That was art. The vendors, all of them originally hired for my wedding, approached me one by one. The baker, the florist, even the band. Every single one offered to comp their services if I ever wanted a do-over. Just say when, the baker said, motioning to the uneaten 3-tier vanilla raspberry cake. Next time, let's make it lemon. Sweeter ending. I went home that night to my childhood bedroom. No more wedding stress, no more hiding heartbreak, no more pretending to be the calm one while my life collapsed under me. I slept 10 hours straight. No anxiety dreams. Just peace. The fallout came fast. By Monday, Logan had lost $130,000 in investor funding. Turns out, backers don't love being associated with a public scandal. Especially one featuring theft, betrayal, and sexual content streamed from a wedding altar. Brittany? Fired. Her law firm, ultra-conservative, family values obsessed, terminated her for conduct unbecoming and reputational harm. HR didn't even call. They emailed. Their Portland dream evaporated. The apartment they'd signed a lease for pulled their application after seeing the video. And the culinary incubator Logan wanted to join posted a statement online. We do not tolerate unethical business practices. Patterson will not be working with us. They tried to lay low. It didn't work. Everywhere they went, someone recognized them. Gas stations, grocery stores, airports. Social media algorithms made sure their past followed them like toilet paper on a shoe. Brittany changed her name and moved to Wyoming, working night shifts at a gas station off I-25. Logan washed dishes at a roadside diner, no longer the aspiring chef with grand dreams. Just a guy with greasy hands and a ruined Google search. Me? I built something better. The $26,000 they tried to steal became seed money for my own business, a nursing consultancy that helped hospitals optimize patient care. Within 6 months, I had 5 contracts and a waiting list. My story, carefully stripped of identifying details, made waves in professional circles. I was invited to speak at women's leadership conferences. My inbox filled with strangers thanking me for reminding them not to stay quiet. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I fell in love. With Nate. The cousin who helped me execute the cleanest takedown in wedding history. The guy who never once said, I told you so. Who sat beside me for weeks, eating takeout while we rebuilt my life one messy detail at a time. He proposed 9 months later, right on Sunset Beach, The same spot Logan had once knelt, but this time with no lies, no hidden betrayal, and no one but us. I fell in love with you during the planning phase, Nate said, slipping the ring on my finger. Watching you fight for yourself, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. We're getting married next spring. All 200 people from the first wedding are invited. Yes, even Denise, Logan's mom. She's walking me down the aisle. My dad passed away last fall, but Denise insisted. Sweetheart, my son may be trash, but you are not. You deserve to be escorted by someone who knows what you survived. Even Chelsea, the photographer, is returning. When I asked about her rate, she replied, Please. I'd pay you to photograph this redemption arc. The vendors? Every one of them is donating their services. The first one was a dress rehearsal, the florist said. This one's the real show. Even the cake designer grinned when we met. This time, she said, we'll make something sweet enough to wash away the bitter taste. And best of all, we're live streaming it. Hashtag your real love. I'm sure Brittany and Logan will find a way to tune in. I hope they do.